So the second referendum is the Care Referendum. We'll run through this an awful lot quicker. So obviously it's taking place again on the 8th of March. So a brief overview of the Care Referendum, current wording, the proposed amendments, previous proposals to amend Article 41.2, why the government say it needs to be amended, what's in the media, what does the Constitution actually say about a woman's life, place and duties being in the home, what impact does the lack of gender-neutral language have on women in terms of their stated duties in the home, deletion of the protection offered to mothers in relation to being forced to work outside the home due to economic necessity, which sex predominantly carries out care work both inside and outside the home, what are the predominant views of mothers in relation to caring for their children, incentives and schemes to ensure mothers return to the workforce, what impact will the new care provision in Article 42B have in terms of supports for carers and potential consequences. So I'm not going to run through this. The timeline is literally identical. These two bills came into the Houses of the Oireachtas on the exact same days. So the timeline for the family referendum and the care referendum are identical. Same thing, literally same thing again, stages exactly the same. The explanatory memorandum to the bill states that the purpose of the bill is to propose to delete the current wording of Article 41.2 and insert a new Article 42B into the Constitution that recognises family care. Roderick O'Gorman TD has said that the present wording in Article 41.2 seeks to contain women in a very singular role, a role that's completely divorced from the reality of women's lives, women's careers across our state today. So it contains women in a singular role. In short, the purpose of the proposed amendment is to remove the special protection that mothers enjoy under the Constitution, whereby the state guarantees to endeavour to ensure that mothers are not forced into the labour market due to economic necessity, and to replace this with a gender-neutral requirement upon the state to strive to support care between family members. So, exact same thing on pre-legislative scrutiny. Didn't happen in this case either. All the same concerns were raised again. So this is Article 41, Family of the Constitution. So what it states is the state recognises the family as the natural, primary and fundamental unit group of society and as a moral institution possessing inalienable and imprescriptible rights, antecedent and superior to all positive law. The state therefore guarantees to protect the family and its constitution and authority as the necessary basis of social order and as indispensable to the welfare of the nation and the state. So these are the offending paragraphs. In particular, the state recognises that by her life within the home, not her place in the home, her life within the home, woman gives to the state a support without which the common good cannot be achieved. The state shall therefore endeavour to ensure that mothers, not women, mothers shall not be obliged by economic necessity to engage in labour to the neglect of their duties in the home. Okay, so you can see on the screen here now, these are the amendments that they want to make. So they want to delete those two paragraphs that refer to the state recognises that by her life within the home, a woman gives to the state a support without which the common good cannot be achieved, and the state shall therefore endeavour to ensure that mothers shall not be obliged by economic necessity to engage in labour. So they want to delete that, and they want to include this new provision as the alternative, and it's under a new provision called Care. And it says the state recognises that the provision of care by members of a family to one another by reasons of the bonds that exist among them gives to society a support without which the common good cannot be achieved, and shall strive to support such provision. So they want to take out women and mothers. They want to take out the fact that mothers should not be forced out of the home due to economic necessity. And they want to say that the state will recognise care just between family members, nothing to do with the wider community, nothing on the state. They will recognise it and they will strive to support it. So there have been calls to amend these articles of the Constitution for decades. So you can see here, these were all the different times, different committees and different review groups that were set up throughout the years trying to amend these articles. So what they're getting right now, they've been trying to get for a long time. So the government states that Article 41.2 of the Constitution needs to be amended for three reasons. One, to remove the archaic and sexist reference to a woman's life, place and duties at the home. Two, to recognise the value of care and support which family members give to one another. And three, to create an obligation on the state to support those care relationships. Whereas, my opinion again, in reality, the government are seeking to delete mothers and women from the Constitution, most likely for ideological reasons, and in doing so, they are disregarding the profoundly important role that mothers play in the home, while also removing the special protection mothers are afforded with regard to working outside the home due to economic necessity, as opposed to by choice. So, these are a few extracts from Dáil debates about what different TDs and senators have said in relation to these articles. So Roderick O'Gorman said, the introduction of today's bill is an opportunity at last for this House to put a proposal to the people to remove the archaic and sexist reference to a woman's place in the home in Article 42. This is a provision which, irrespective of the reasoning behind it, has in no way improved the lives of women in this country since it was introduced. And then he just talks about the fact that they've been trying to change it for 3 decades. Then he said, the overarching aim of the referendum is to update our constitution so that it reflects our values in terms of equality and recognition of the valuable role that both women and men play in all spheres of public and private life. While Article 41.2 has been the subject to much consideration over the years, it is only one part of the proposal. And then Senator Rita Cronin says, I welcome the removal of the outdated and sexist language about women in the home. Holly Kern says it's difficult to feel enthusiastic about this referendum. There's no denying that the wording in the Constitution in respect of women in the home is outdated and sexist, but other than being generally insulting, it has had no positive impact on women's careers. Emer Higgins said in less than 3 months the people of Ireland will go to vote on the 40th Amendment. This is a very significant moment because it reflects another crucial step towards achieving women's rights across Ireland. We don't have equality already, you see. Jennifer Carroll McNeil said the current provision refers to her life within the home, without which the common good cannot be achieved. I assured the chair that I have neglected my duties in the home today, and probably every other day I've been in Dáil, and I'm not really that bothered about it. Deputy Jim O'Callaghan, who is also, I believe, a senior counsel, said it is obviously the case that certain language within the Constitution is outdated, and Article 41.2 is one of those provisions. This is why I predominantly support its amendment and removal from the Constitution. A distinguished legal academic has referred to that provision in the Constitution as being objectively paternalistic, which is a very good description of it. The reason I and many other people think it is so is because it refers to a woman by her life within the home. It suggests that a woman's life begins and ends within the home. Ivana Bakchik said the current sexist language within it, which refers to a woman as having a life within the home and mothers as having duties within the home. Breed Smith, the government has done us all a disservice by coupling the deletion, and as I paraphrase it, the woman's place is in the home. There's loads more of it. Another one, this is particularly bad actually, Erin McGreenan. She said, in my family there were no opportunities for education. So this lady is a senator who I was told by Matty McGrath last week, he was at the Clonmel talk, he said that she was actually proposed by, I'm not sure it was a Taoiseach or the Taoiseach, into this role as a senator. So she said, in my family there were no opportunities for education. Women were told there was no point finishing school. They were told they should get married, have their children, stay at home and fulfil our constitution. So you know when you're sitting across the table from your mother and your mother is saying, listen now, have your kids, get married and fulfil the Constitution. Then she said, it states that a woman's life is within the home. This is what they're saying in the Dáil debates. She said, I find it difficult to take comments from mainly men who have said women were not affected by this article. I do not buy that. So if you're talking about sexist or you're talking about inequality, it's when people say that a man or anybody else is not entitled to an opinion simply by virtue of his gender. That's what she has said there. Then she said, on Twitter, I asked for a yes vote. It is amazing how threatened some men are by the fact that a woman's life will not be shackled to a life within the home. Then the final senator, Senator Roisin Garvey said, so Senator Michael McDougall went through the comments that were made and he said, hang on a second, the Constitution doesn't actually say what you're saying at all. Why are you actually saying the Constitution says that a woman's place is in the home? The word place isn't in the Constitution at all. What are you talking about? And this Senator Roisin Garvey said, I would appreciate if Senator McDougall would listen to me. I listened to him when he was objecting to the change. A woman's place is wherever she bloody well wants it to be. Then she said, it is proposed to remove the reference to a woman's life within the home and recognise the value of care and support which family members give to each other. I would say it again, a woman's place is wherever she bloody well wants it to be, and I do not appreciate Senator McDougall telling me that women should be at home. He took great offence to that because he didn't say it. But the point is, a lot of these people are saying that there are things in the Constitution that simply aren't in it. They are saying that TDs and senators made statements that they simply didn't make. So that was the first reason that they said that the amendment needed to be made, was to remove the archaic and sexist reference to a woman's place, life and duties in the home. So the second reason they're saying it needs to be introduced is to recognise the value of care and support which family members give to one another, and to create an obligation on the state to support those care relationships. So Roderick O'Gorman said the proposed amendment seeks to recognise that the mutual care and support which family members provide to one another is a public good and a foundation for solid social solidarity and social cohesion. Furthermore, this amendment does not merely recognise care. Amending the Constitution as proposed will also place an express obligation on the state to strive to support care within the family. So, just to recap on what different TDs and senators have said. So Roderick O'Gorman said that a woman's place is in the home. Jim O'Callaghan said it refers to a woman by her life within the home. It suggests that a woman's life begins and ends within the home. Ivana Bacik said it's confining women and mothers to lives and duties within the home, confining them. Breach Smith said the woman's place is in the home. And a second time she said a woman's place being in the home. And Senator Roisin Garvey, as you said, she'll bloody well tell you whatever she wants to tell you. So that's what the TDs and senators have said. What it says in the media is, Financial Times, a woman's place is in the home. Irish Times, women's place is in the home. RTE, women's duties in the home. It doesn't say women's duties, it says mother's duties. Somebody did actually ask me to raise the issue of the women or the mother's duties in the home, and they asked me to discuss the fact that I think the word in the Irish version of the Constitution is different to the English, that the word, the word duties is different or something. And what I actually said to them was, if you have to argue with somebody that a mother doesn't have duties to her children, because that's what it's referring to, is a mother having duties to her children in the home. If you're having to argue that point, I actually just said to them, I'm not willing to argue that point. You've already lost that person if you have to argue that a mother has duties to her children. So I said I wasn't even willing to argue that point. This other document, the conversation, according to Ireland's Constitution, a woman's duties are in the home. Reuters, women's place being in the home, and Sky News to a woman's place being in the home. So the media, the TDs, the senators, they're all telling you that the Constitution says something that it literally does not say. So just what some of the senators have said. So Senator Sharon Keoghan said, the public has been fed a cock and bull story about this referendum being about how the woman's place is in the home, feeding into the popular misconception that the Constitution contains some provision along those lines, when in fact we know that what exists is a protection for women who wish to work in the home and serve this country by raising a family. Senator Ronan Mullen said the same thing also. I have heard many interesting things said. I always listen to my colleague Senator Higgins with great interest. However, I noticed that she, amongst others, mentioned the views of certain prominent women at the time of the 1937 referendum who did not like the provision that relates not to a woman's place within the home, but the privileges of mother and their duties within the home. So what he was saying was the same thing again, is that everybody is saying that the Constitution says that a woman's place is in the home. He was saying that as far back as 1937, they were saying the Constitution said that, and it never actually said that. So what the former Supreme Court Judge Brian Walsh in this review of the Constitution again said, he said Article 41 has attracted the wrath of some critics who claim to see it as a statement to the effect that a woman's place is in the home. This is not a new claim. It first surfaced in 1937 when the Constitution was being put before the people for enactment. However, such a claim completely misreads the Constitution. It is rather like a conditioned reflex to any sentence in which both the words woman and home appear. In the article, the state acknowledges that by her life within the home, woman gives to the state a support without which the common good cannot be achieved. That is a statement of fact. So the Bill Digest, so this is obviously, there was a Bill Digest for the family referendum and for the care referendum. So this is the one for the care referendum. So they actually take an extract from a judgment from 2001. So this is from the Supreme Court judge, a female judge, not that it should matter. Denham. So what she said was Article 41.2 does not assign women to a domestic role. Article 41.2 recognises the significant role played by wives and mothers in the home. This recognition and acknowledgement does not exclude women and mothers from other roles and activities. It is a recognition of the work performed by women in the home. The work is recognised because it has immense benefit for society. This recognition must be construed harmoniously with the other articles. So that's the Supreme Court female judge. So the claim is that the Constitution states that a woman's place is in the home. The Constitution doesn't state any such thing. Instead, it says that the state recognises the support that women provide within the home, and that without this support, the common good cannot be achieved. The second thing that they state is that a woman's duties are in the home. It doesn't. Instead, it says that the state must endeavour to support mothers, not women, so that mothers are not obliged by economic necessity to work outside of the home. And it does say to the neglect of their duties in the home. So what impact does the lack of gender neutral language have on women in terms of their stated duties in the home? So this is a 2002 Supreme Court judgment in relation to a divorce case. So this is obviously the finding in that case. So what the judge said was, in my view, the work of a spouse is in the home. In my view, the work of a spouse in the home, and in this case the respondent's wife, cannot be a basis for discriminating against her by reason only of the fact that the husband was the major earner or the breadwinner during the course of the marriage. The Constitution views the family as indispensable to the welfare of the state. Article 41.21 recognises that by her life in the home, the woman gives to the state a support without which the common good cannot be achieved. No doubt the exclusive reference to women in that provision reflects social thinking and conditions at that time. It does, however, expressly recognise that work in the home by a parent is indispensable to the welfare of the state by virtue of the fact that it promotes the welfare of the family. He goes on to state that I would observe in passing that the Constitution, as this court has stated on numerous occasions, is to be interpreted as a contemporary document. The duties and obligations of spouses are mutual, and without elaborating further, since nothing turns on this point in this case, it seems to me that it implicitly recognises similarly the value of a man's contribution in the home as a parent. So what he's telling you is that even though the Constitution refers to only the woman in the home, the benefit provided by men within the home is also recognised. So deletion of the protection offered to mothers in relation to being forced to work outside of the home due to economic necessity. So you can even see that obviously this is the table that we looked at earlier, where we talked about all the different groups that wanted to bring in amendments to this article over over the last number of decades. And in 2006, when the Oireachtas Committee looked at the Constitution, they were actually trying to keep that wording. What they were saying was the state shall therefore endeavour to ensure that both parents should not be obliged by economic necessity to work outside of the home to the neglect of their parental duties. So that's the type of wording that was being proposed, but there's obviously a reason that they haven't taken that wording on board and they've gone for something completely different. So which sex predominantly carries out care work both inside and outside the home? So this is census data from 2022 and 2016. So you can see that women predominantly are the stay-at-home parent, 244,000 versus 27,000 for men. It obviously is increasing for men over the years, but obviously women are still predominantly. But you can also see between 2016 and 2022 and even 1986, the numbers are falling drastically. And also in relation to part-time work, women carry out far more part-time work compared to men. So that's obviously inside of the home. Then outside of the home, in relation to other types of care that people might provide to elderly people. So what they're saying is that these figures are consistent with care data in Ireland, where 60% of the 500,000 family carers are female. So the people who predominantly carry out care work, whether or not it's parents at home minding kids or minding other relatives, are women. And then the argument is, well, sure, women only do it because they have to do it. But is that what the data says? No, the data says that women actually want to be at home with their kids if they have a choice. So the polls actually say, these are polls from 2017. The poll was, a poll in the Irish Daily Mail suggests that 63% of Irish mothers would stay at home to raise their children if money wasn't an issue. So when the Journal asked the poll, and they got 8,570 and the yes, 72% of women said that they would prefer to stay at home and mind their children if they could. And the same thing again, the Irish Independent then a little while later asked the same question again. And what they were finding was, in that case, they were saying 53% wished that they could achieve a balance between being able to work and mind their kids at home. So in the majority of cases, if mothers have the choice and if money wasn't an issue, they would prefer to stay at home and mind their kids. So then the question that arises then is, are the government making it easier for mothers to stay at home, or are they making it easier for mothers to go out to work? So this is a document prepared by the European Parliament, and it's titled After Parental Leave, Incentives for Parents with Young Children to Return to the Labour Market. All they're interested in is ensuring that parents return to the labour market. So the aim of this document says the objectives of the study are: one, to understand if and how the employment situation of parents with young children in the EU differs from those without, and how it has changed in recent years. Two, to identify maybe issues that affect parents' decisions to return to the work and to examine effective interventions that support that. And three, identifies ways to increase labour market participation of parents with young children. So what they want is, they want the parents out in the workforce, they want the kids in the creche all day, and obviously then the parents aren't teaching their kids what they want them to know. They aren't instilling whatever benefits and principles they have within that family unit on those kids. And what they also said here is that depending on the number of kids that a family has, the more kids that you have, the less likely it is that you're actually going to go out into the workforce. So that's one of the reasons that they probably aren't going to be incentivising people to have more kids. So what impact will the new care provisions in Article 42B have in terms of support for carers? So this is an extract from the Dáil debates from Roderick O'Gorman. So what he said is, it must be noted that the proposed amendment does not create an express constitutional entitlement to specific measures of support such as grants and allowances. So one of the reasons he said that this needed to be brought in was to ensure that there was an onus on the state to strive to support care between family members. In the actual debate, what he's telling you is, it doesn't create any express constitutional entitlement to anything. He also said this amendment does not confer a constitutional right to care, nor does the amendment seek to insert an entitlement to a list of specific supports. So a number of TDs then, or senators then raised concerns with this new care article, and particularly with this word strive to support. So I understand that Senator Tom Cloonan, I believe that he has maybe a disabled child, so I think he raised this quite a bit within the Seanad. And also Senator Michael McDougall said, where is the state's obligation in this? Where is the community's obligation in all of this? Where is the social responsibility for people who have a disability to vindicate their rights? Senator Cloonan talked about people with disability, and for him, this will be the only constitutional provision for people with disability. It is being sold on that basis. It is a kind of mismatch that is being sold on the basis that this is where the state provides in its fundamental law for the whole issue of care. It restricts care to that kind of care that is being given from one family member to another by the bonds of their by reason of their bonds of loyalty. The provision states that it will assist members of a family who provide care to each other. It does not even say that it will assist them. It says that it will strive to do so. It is therefore virtually unenforceable in any shape or form. So what he's telling you is, they're taking out the reference to mothers and women in the Constitution. They're taking out the special protection that mothers enjoy in the Constitution. Should any mother decide at some point that she wanted to try and vindicate that right and take a constitutional challenge, she wouldn't be able to. And what they're inserting is a provision in the Constitution for care that the former Taoiseach and Attorney General is saying will be virtually unenforceable. So the facts versus the claims. The Constitution needs to be amended to remove the archaic and sexist reference to a woman's life, place and duties in the home, because this confines women and limits them to a sexist and stereotypical role in terms of them being in the home. So the Constitution states no such thing. Instead, it acknowledges the profoundly important role that women play in the home. The Constitution further guarantees to ensure that no mother shall be forced into the labour market by economic necessity, again because of the profoundly important role that women and particularly mothers play in the family. In relation to Article 41 being archaic, sexist, stereotypical and outdated, census data informs us that women are the predominant stay-at-home parent, both with respect to full-time and part-time employment, and that even more women and mothers would choose to stay at home to look after their children if they had a choice. In light of this, the special protections offered to mothers is not sexist or outdated. Instead, it reflects the reality of their lives, noting that, in fact, even more mothers would choose to stay at home to look after their children if they could financially afford to. The reality of the way in which mothers would choose to live their lives reinforces the justification for this provision. The second reason they say it needs to be amended is the Constitution needs to be amended to recognise the value of the care and support which family members give to one another. The facts are, though, that in 2002, the Supreme Court case, it was held that regardless of the fact that the Constitution does not specifically reference the contribution that men make to the family, the Constitution is to be interpreted as a contemporary document, and that the duties and obligations of spouses are mutual. And in this regard, it naturally follows that the care provided by both men and women within the family is recognised and acknowledged. And then the third reason they're saying it needs to be amended is to provide an obligation on the state to support those care relationships. So the first thing to remember again is that they're deleting the protections offered to mothers, and they're seeking to replace it with a provision that would oblige the state to strive to support care between family members. And as Michael McDowell said, the language that they're using makes it virtually unenforceable. Secondly, the protection offered to mother from having to enter the labour market due to economic necessity has been completely deleted, as opposed to just extending it to both parents. Thirdly, regardless of the protections offered to mothers under the provision, the government have failed time and again to vindicate this right. Instead, they've enacted numerous pieces of legislation to incentivise mothers to return to the workforce, thereby disregarding their obligations to vindicate the rights of mothers to remain in the home should they choose. Therefore, even if they introduced a proposed amendment to the Constitution that did actually place a positive obligation on them to support care between family members, they would disregard it at a whim if they chose to. And finally, it's important to note that Roderick O'Gorman has confirmed himself in the Dáil debates that this amendment does not confer a constitutional right to care, nor does the amendment seek to insert an entitlement to a specific list of provisions. And Michael McDowell again said that it's virtually unenforceable, and that there's no social dimension to it other than the family dimension. It has no wider application than the kind of care that family members give to one another. So he was saying there's no positive obligation on the state or society in general. So then just the potential consequences of a yes vote. So again, this is just my opinion. So to erase mothers and women from the Constitution, I believe that it's for ideological reasons. I believe that the terms are so offensive to certain groups of people that they want to appease them and that they want to delete those words. And if you look at the Dáil debates around the Care Referendum and the Family Referendum, the terms, gender identities, transgenderism, those type of terms were used 35 times throughout. So this is what Senator Michael McDowell said in relation to the erasure of mothers and women from the Constitution. He said, "I blanch when I see a reference in recent legislation to the proposition that we do not refer to women who are pregnant, rather that we speak about persons who are pregnant. What is the agenda to reduce everyone to atonic persons with interchangeable roles and fluid genders? What is it all about? It is a broader agenda which has been driven by a tiny minority in Ireland and a small and broken minority within the government." So even the likes of Michael McDowell is telling you there's a different agenda at play here.
Right.
So the second potential consequence is to delete the special protections guaranteed to mothers under the Constitution. So as I said, the Constitution currently gives recognition to the profoundly important role that mothers play within the family, that they shouldn't be forced into the labour market due to economic necessity. And I know mothers are forced into the labour market due to economic necessity, but the point is that while this is in the Constitution, somebody could actually take a constitutional challenge against the government. They could say, you provide all of these incentives to make sure that mothers go out into the workforce. What are you doing to make sure that mothers can stay at home? But once this is taken out, they can't do that. The alternative for the government was just to make it mother-father. But they didn't do that. They chose to take it out. And if they chose to take it out, there's a reason for it. And the third potential consequence is that there will be no positive impact for carers. So as Michael McDowell has said, the provision does not even say that it will assist them. It says that it will strive to do so. It is therefore virtually unenforceable in any shape or form. And the article restricts care to the kind of care that is given by one family member to another, by reasons of the bonds of loyalty that exist between them. It doesn't actually place any obligations on the state or on the wider community. So it's just between family members.